You are listening to a Called Collective podcast where we seek to equip the next generation of ministry leaders. The Called Collective produces multiple podcasts, which you can find in the description below. To learn more about the Called Collective, visit our website at thecalledcollective.org or check us out on Instagram at The Called Collective.
What's up, guys? This is Coffee and Calling, where we just chat over coffee. I'm one of your co-hosts, Isaac.
I am Noah Yearout, and thank you so much. Sit back, enjoy, and come along for the ride. Yeah, we're back. Another episode. Glad to hear you guys, and I guess not hear you guys, but you guys can hear us. Isaac, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I always find it interesting to see how the intros are with these podcasts, especially with this one. It's fun to watch you kind of struggle through some of them.
Because I don't want to do the same thing every single time.
That's very true. Now, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Coffee and Calling.
Welcome to Coffee and Calling. We're so glad you guys are here and joining us today. You know, it's
Welcome
just
back to my vlog.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Welcome to the vlog.
Exactly. But you guys hear a new voice on the podcast.
And it's not my beautiful voice.
It's not mine either.
So who is it, Isaac?
It's Mickey Fulton. Woo! Thanks
Mickey,
for joining.
I love the sweater.
Thank you.
I find your lack of cheer disturbing with Darth Vader.
Yes.
That's
Classic.
ideal. That's
Christmas
ideal.
season and Star Wars season all the time.
Yeah.
That's fair. Okay, wait, I have a question then.
Yes.
If you're big on the Christmas cheer, does the Christmas cheer start before or after Thanksgiving?
Before.
What?
Wow.
Before.
When? How early?
Yeah.
I put up my tree November 1st, but
Oh
I listened
my
to Christmas
days.
music on Halloween. It was fun.
We have a heretic in the building. Oh, wow. That's like the opposite of me.
Our family
Ooh.
our family was always so late for everything for Christmas. We were so busy that it was like
Fair.
2 weeks before.
My parents start so early. They're like, why set up all this stuff and not enjoy it?
Okay,
a long time.
that's fair. We set it up the day after Thanksgiving.
How late do you guys have it up?
They take it down right after because they work in the school system. And so they're like, we're still on break, so we might as well use it.
That's true.
Nice.
Well, when are you going to take it down?
I don't know.
I always just take it down the day after. Because it's like, once
Aw.
Christmas happens, it's like, Christmas is done.
I'll do it in shifts.
'Cause we're going to
you
the
know?
new year.
Like, the outside stuff can come down early.
Yeah,
when
yeah.
we leave the tree up.
It's
for
in
a
slow
while.
denial, you know,
Mhm.
of that.
We just keep it up for
Yeah.
like half of January.
That's fair. Well, all right, we get it. You're in the festive spirit, but would you give just a short, quick introduction for the people listening so they have an idea of who you are?
Yeah, so I'm Mickey Fulton. I attend IWU. My passion is youth ministry, and so that's what I want to do the rest of my life, plant myself in a community and do it long term as long as I can, even though that's not super typical of youth people.
Wow, yeah. I was about to say, I got someone to the left of me thinking about that too.
Yeah, well, I like the idea of being long-term and pastoring. Isaac's over here like,
All right,
no, I want to go.
I don't relate to any of you guys on that. No, but that's good. But thank you for joining on this. And as you know, with the title is Coffee and Calling. And so we're here to talk about how you've come to this place, right? Obviously there's a story behind this statement that you just had about wanting to be in youth ministry for a long time. And so however much you want to share, however little you want to share, would you just take us there and how the Lord has really worked in your life to bring you to this point?
Yeah, so what's really interesting is that where I grew up, there wasn't a lot of full-time youth pastors. I didn't actually know it was a job. There was a lot of volunteers. You'd see short devotionals and a lot of games. And my church actually didn't have a youth program when I was a teenager. They did before, but then the pastor moved. And so I was sitting there and I was like, oh yeah, you know, church is where like the old people are. You go, you serve, you sing, you leave. And then my friend actually invited me to go to her youth ministry my freshman year of high school. And so I said, you know, why not? Just another one of the places I go for games. So I went to another one, and so I went to that one. And that one was a little bit different. They actually cared about communicating the word a little bit. So
Not just entertainment or daycare or something like
not
that.
just pizza parties.
Yes, but the games at the other place were so nice. They were so fun.
That's fair. That's fair.
But I found my youth pastor there, and I started going the rest of my high school career. And so before I wanted to go into youth min, I kind of was thinking about like psychology a little bit or something like that. Because for me, growing up, I couldn't really share my feelings much when I was younger. I didn't feel anywhere safe to do that. And so I just held on to everything. But when I met my youth pastor, we had all these conversations where I could actually talk to him about things I was going through and struggling with. And so I wanted to be that for someone else. And so I looked into psychology, counseling, and I was really struggling. I'm like, man, what do I say to people when they're like, nobody cares about me? Yeah. And I'm like, oh, well, I can't say I care about them because they're paying me to talk to them. And so that's not really beneficial.
That's a good point.
But then I'm like, oh, I could say God loves them. And I'm like, but could I in certain fields? Could I actually say that? Maybe they don't believe in God, so that wouldn't have any beneficial, anything beneficial for them. And so I was like, what else is similar? And I just couldn't think about it. And then I found out my youth pastor got paid. And I'm like, wow, wow, that might be something I could go into. Obviously not a lot of money. But I was like, oh, youth pastor is actually a job. And so that was kind of the heart where I started to, that's where I was like, wow, this could actually be something I could go into. And I remember going to this concert once, and my friend's mom was reading the Bible in the morning. And I was like, wow, like, look at her diving into the word. Like, what's something that I could do that, like, I don't want to be distracted from that. I want that to be my job. And so I initially thought, like, oh, wait, I could be a youth pastor. I could learn the Bible for a profession. Like, that's something that's an option for me. And so when I came to IWU and I started learning more about it, I learned that there's an awful statistic where youth pastors only stay 6 months to 2 years. I was like, that is ridiculous. This is the time in someone's life where they actually need consistency.
So true.
And, as I talk to more people, they're like, yeah, it's not an option really. You grow and you want to leave and you get different opportunities, and that's just not something you stay in. And I'm like, well, that's ridiculous. Yeah. My parents have been working in the school system for over 20 years, and they are now teaching students they had earlier in their career. Like, they're building this legacy where people know their name because they've had multiple generations have them. And I'm like, what kind of an impact could a church have on people and a community if you just stay there and go for the long run, which is hard because, one, I'm a super ambitious person, so I love taking new opportunities. But God just teaching you, like, hey, like, I'm here for you all the time, and so I want you to be that consistency for someone else.
Wow.
And so that's a little bit of my calling into where I am now.
Yeah. One thing I'm curious to go into a little bit was there wasn't really a moment, like, say, for example, when we have other talks with people about their calling, they all they're like, I can point back to one moment at a church camp when there was a call to the altar of somebody's called to ministry, and they're like, it was me. And they run for it or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, where they can point to one moment where something crazy happened, and the Lord's like, I'm calling you to ministry. And they're like, what? But with you, as you're talking, it's more just like this desire just to share the Lord with people, right? Teach his word and go to, especially youth, right? Who are in such a troubled time with anxiety, depression, stress, all these things, suicide rates out the window, like all this stuff, right? And so it seems like there was never, and correct me if I'm wrong, there was never like a moment where it was like that one point that you can point to, one time where it's like, that's when I received my call to ministry, right?
Yeah, I'm actually super glad you asked that because, I had no Damascus Road experience for this. When I first got to IWU, actually, I was like kind of taken aback by all these people being like, you're called to ministry, you're called to ministry. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I remember my youth pastor talking about how he was running through a cornfield once, and like, that's when God called him. I'm like, I don't understand.
What's a cornfield?
What's a cornfield? I'm from the West Coast.
And so when I got here and everyone's like, yeah, write this paper on your call to ministry. Yeah, when's your call to ministry? I'm like, brother, I don't know. And so when I first read of this thing called the progressive calling, that's when I was like, that's me. It's just over time, little by little, God is just instilling more passion and discipline. While there's no moment I could be like, this is when God calls me to ministry, which is like when people say, when you go through a hard time in ministry, that's the point you could look back on. I don't have that, but I have these moments where every day God is telling me, like, this is why you're here. He's reminding me, like, every interaction. I have a kid. Last night I was praying with a girl who's about to do a very big surgery, and I'm like, this is why I'm where I am.
Facts. Wow, that's so good. And how'd that make you feel? You know, when you came to college and people are really talking about, oh, that one moment where the Lord really spoke to me, or some miraculous thing happens where the Lord's like, yeah, I'm calling you to ministry, like a Damascus road. Was that challenging to hear from other people? And it's like, wait, why did you question, in a sense, your calling and what you felt you were being led by God into?
Oh yeah. I was like, oh, am I not called in a ministry? And then for a little bit, like, if I'm being completely honest, I'm like, am I even a Christian? Like, if I'm not called into ministry and I'm going into this, like, what the heck am I doing here? Am I wasting my life going to school for something I'm not called to? Am I going to go into a profession where you don't make a lot of money and I'm not even supposed to be there? Like, how am I even supposed to reconcile this? And just over time, God worked with me over nights in my bedroom where I was like, what the heck am I doing here? And again, it's nothing that was like, boom, this is where you're at, but knowing, like, people also struggle with their call to ministry. And I hope whoever's listening to this, that if they don't have this huge experience, like, this is a sign for you that you don't have to have some big call to ministry to go serve the Lord.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like you had this moment where you're just like, there's a need, there's a hurt. I have the desire to help serve there, right? Jesus calls us to go and share. And you're like, all right, instead of going, I may go to community and I'm going to stay and share, right? Like, we highlight these big moments, right? We all do. Like, we want the testimony of the drug addict, you know, that like was addicted, and all of a sudden the Lord met them there, right? Which is amazing. But it's also amazing for the testimony that's like, no, I've known Jesus since I was 5, and I followed him every single day since then. What a beautiful testimony that is.
Yeah, faithfulness,
right?
bro.
And so, like, my question is kind of transitioning into your time at Gull Lake. So I know you were 3 years?
3 years.
So you were you were a camp counselor at Gull Lake Ministries for 3 years. How has that played into your call, if that has at all?
Yeah, so Gull Lake has a big place in my heart. Obviously, there's always struggles in places where you have big hearts for. But it is a place where I really learned what serving was like. And a little bit of a thing about Gull Lake, right? Sometimes you have the counselor positions and you have, like, you know, like the lifeguard and the ropes, but you also have something called the work crew, where you're literally in the kitchen and you're doing dishes. Clean side forever. It's where the clean dishes come out. I don't like the dirty side.
Clean side forever. Woo!
Woo! Amen. But it's that concept of, we all want those moments, right? Where you're praying with the kids, where you're having fun and the kids are getting baptized. But you look at the moms and they're like, every time you ask a mom, what's one of your favorite things about Gull Lake? They go, I don't have to cook. That's one of their favorite parts, because this is a point where they're being served. And so just for me, learning a heart posture of, I am serving people. And it looks like a different capacities, right? My passion is for youth, but sometimes seasons don't call for that. Sometimes seasons call for work crew. Overall, I did that for 8-9 weeks of my entire life over the last 3 years. And a little comparison, right? We have those moments where for high tide, which is middle school through high school, we went and washed kids' feet. And man, that's such a powerful time where you're serving them in that way and you're washing their feet. And you tell them, like, hey, to us today, that's a symbol, right? But Jesus actually was washing dirt and grub and all this stuff off their feet. But then you'd go into the kitchens, but that's actually where washing feet took place, right? You're washing the tables where there's just crumbs everywhere, and you're cleaning the bathrooms, right? And so ministry is serving, and sometimes you're not going to like where you're serving, but that's where you need to be serving. And so that's one thing that Gull Lake really taught me is, you know, sometimes you have a passion and God put that passion in you, but sometimes seasons call for something else.
Dang, that's good. That's been like a theme that we've been running on this podcast, where we see calls, and a lot of times, right, there's times where your passions and your desires do line up with where God's called you, but then other times it's contrary to that. You know, there's many stories of people being called somewhere and they're like, I don't want to go there. Moses, Jonah, like you could go, the list could go on, right? And then we see people with on this podcast where they were called and they're like, I had no desire to do so, right? And then you talking about your passions for youth, and it's like, but if my time right now is to serve, then I'm gonna serve. Wow, that's good. That's just about being faithful and obedient with whatever the heck God calls you to. My kind of next question with the calling, I think has to do with, especially with people looking to come here, with being a Wesleyan school, and how we affirm women in ministry. How has that played a role as you like coming into this call, right? As you said, a progressive call. Was growing up in that, when you came to the idea that you want to be a youth pastor, that was your family supportive? Was your church supportive? Were they not? How did people receive that with you, as you being a woman called to ministry?
Yeah. So again, like looking at like not even knowing youth pastor's position, I had never seen a woman pastor before. Not because like my church was like against that, but small community, one pastor on staff. That's just how the way it was. Right. And so when I was like, okay, like this is something I could do, and I told my parents, I was like, I think I might want to go into ministry. And my mom goes, that you don't make a lot of money in that.
That's exactly what my mom said.
And they're in the school system, so if they're saying it, that's bad. Okay.
Dang.
And my dad says now, he thinks it's so funny. He's like, I never would have guessed I was going to have a kid going into the pastorate. But it's not like a bad thing, but it's just funny where life takes you. But yeah, they're super supportive of me now. My pastor's super supportive. Obviously, at first it was like, oh, like you could make a great pastor's wife someday. But as time went on, it's now developed to you are going to make a great pastor someday. So even changing perspectives a little bit. I'm pretty hard-headed in some areas, so I don't stand down when people kind of butt heads against me on that topic. But I want to encourage every girl who is listening. I mean, we're a body, and we all need to be used for the glory of God. And so there will be people that you will face that are hesitant about women in ministry, or flat out say, like, you shouldn't be in this position. But from what I see in the Word of God, it's telling me to go, and that's just what it's going to have to be. And so my family's pretty supportive. Obviously, I have an older brother who's not a Christian, and so sometimes I'm like, oh, he must think I'm dumb or something, going into this for my life. But I don't think there's any other place that God's calling me to be, and so like that's just where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, and if you tried to be somewhere else, it'd be like Jonah, be miserable, you know.
Yeah.
And then how has coming here to IWU helped affirm that in you? Where here they proclaim a lot about, we affirm women in ministry. We want to be people who support them and have them in high positions, right? How has IWU here, the professors, current, all that stuff, helped support you, or you seen support other women, or just seeing a bunch of the women professors here? I mean, they are freaking rock stars. Yes. You know what I mean? Oh. How has that been?
Yeah, and so I was going to talk about the professors first, actually. You have so many amazing women here, are so intelligent, that other places would love to have them just because they're so talented. And I think they've spoken a lot into me, and they've been great examples for me, just knowing their Bible and knowing their history and knowing like practicality. You have Professor Shaw and Dr. Cruz and Dr. Elaine and all these people who are just amazing. And it's like, they've been doing this for a long time. Like, women in ministry is not a new concept. It's not like woke or whatever you want to call it. This is something that has been happening throughout entire church history. And one thing I got to do because of IWU is go to the Women's Holiness Movement conference down in Texas over my last spring break for free. So just a little there. Shout out to them, paying my way. And I got to meet so many women who were doing such amazing things before I even knew ministry existed. Wow. And so just like being in a group of people that can come up alongside you and be like, we are now passing the baton to you. We see your gifts. We see your talents. You can do this. Go. It's just super empowering. It doesn't even matter. I don't even know half their stories who are there. There are hundreds of women there coming from different states, race backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds. And it's like, wow, how cool is this that we're all in one place, worshiping God and learning how to do ministry. And so, IWU has been a great place. It's also been a place where I've rubbed heads with people because an institution isn't a single person, right? There are people everywhere who decide what they want to believe and go with that. But but you just bring the Bible to them and you use that. And you're like, if you
Mhm.
don't want to believe it, that's your fault.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes me the most upset. Some people have opinions or like are just solid on something. I'm like, okay, just tell me where it is in scripture and then I'll believe it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what bothers me the most is when they don't have that backing. I'm like, okay, you're saying this, but yet you have no understanding of where it comes from. It's just simply like hearsay. And I think that's one of my pet peeves and
Yeah.
something I'm like, I want to instill in the next generation.
Yeah.
Right. But like you've mentioned how you have a desire for youth and you have a desire to share with them. But like, is there something within youth ministry or even youth in general that you have like a desire for them to know, if that makes sense? Like for me, I have a passion for educating youth on sexuality, right? Like I have a passion about that because it's a need, it's a hurt. And it's something in my life that has really impacted me and I want to impact somebody else in that same way, right? I think sometimes out of a lack of growing up, we have a desire to instill in the next generation.
Yeah, that's
and so
true.
do you have something like that with youth?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I have tons of things I just am so excited to share with them. One of them, again, is like being a safe place for them to talk. A lot of kids don't have that. They don't trust other people. I want to be a place where they can go and they're like, my youth pastor is trustworthy with this. Obviously, you get things where you have to tell their parents. It's a matter of safety, and you have to do that. I've had a few cases like that. But another thing that I am super passionate about is equipping the next generation. Learning how to do inductive Bible study here really taught me how little I knew about reading the Bible.
Yeah.
Facts, dude.
Such
I was
big
like,
facts.
wow.
I was like, I'm an idiot. I thought this passage meant this. I was wrong.
Yeah, and so like teaching them to do that and then teaching them how to reciprocate that. And so there's something that's like, if you don't know how to teach it, you don't actually know it. And so I want to equip them. I have this little gifting of seeing where other people are gifted. And so like actually equipping them to like, oh, you have a heart for like just like hands-on doing things with your hands, right? And so maybe this service project is where I want you to take the lead. Or you're just a super bubbly personality that loves meeting everyone. I'm going to have you be a host at the door to welcome people in. Just little things to get them equipping, to get them serving. Again, serving is something super close to my heart. And so if you teach the next generation, the now generation to serve, they're going to make such a big impact on the world because the world's going to see their actions and be like, they actually believe what they say they do.
Wow. That's so good. I also love, because I was on a podcast once with this guy named Michael Newton, and he was talking about how they run youth group and run with kids. And he's like, we figure out what they are gifted in, and then we resource them to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what you said. You know, you find out what their giftings are, and then you place them in a spot to thrive with those giftings and their strengths. If they're gifted with hospitality, put them in a spot to be hospitable. If they're gifted with evangelism, put them in a spot to be evangelistic. You know, like that's our job as pastors. You know, it's not about just pushing curriculum and what we want to do, actually getting them to be the hands and feet of Christ.
Oh, absolutely.
That's in the whole church. That's not just youth group or something like that. But I love what you said with the IBS, like getting them into that, because what do you think about when, because I've had pushback in I've heard with churches where it's, say a new youth pastor comes and wants to start going deeper in the word in this IBS idea, but then the other pastors are like, no, it needs to be more of like entertainment in a sense. You know what I mean? Where it's like, we need to get them here. And the argument's a good argument in the sense like it needs to be a safe space. It needs to be a place where they can get away.
Mm-hmm.
But what have you been thinking about with that as you talk about how it needs to be deeper, how you want to go deeper into the word with them? What have you been your thoughts on that?
So obviously you have to have some events where you go deeper and some events where it's a little bit lighter for evangelism. You get that balance there. But one thing that I think a lot of people are missing about youth is that they are thirsty for the truth and that they're looking for something to put their life in. Kids are willing to die for what they believe in. They just don't know what they believe in yet. And so they are searching for things and they want things and they have no idea with this culture that is ever changing. Things that were popular a year ago are no longer popular anymore. But the Bible has been going on for thousands of years and the truth still holds and they want to know that. I've actually already started in one of my youth groups. I actually taught them some IBS terminology and they actually did it. Kids aren't dumb.
No.
They are so intelligent. Especially with everything we're having them do, the AP classes, the college classes, the sports, the extracurriculars. They are juggling so much more than a lot of adults are. And so like pushing them is not going to push them away. It's actually going to make them lean in a little bit.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so good. That's
Yeah.
I remember, shout out to Grant Armstrong. I love this man, and I love him for this, how he led in a youth group that I was in under him, and he wanted to transform and bring IBS into it. And he came up with his whole curriculum, how we were going to do it. Every other week could be 1 week. We study the scripture and study the passage. Say we went through Ruth, because, that's what we start with on IBS. But say you go through that, and then I remember sitting with like a couple of the kids, and as we're reading it, encouraging them just to ask questions. And dude, they were asking, what's Kingsman Redeemer? What's up with her laying at his feet? Like all these things. And I'm like, that has to do with the culture. And he goes, I remember Daniel, he's like, well, if a girl's laying at my feet, I would scream. And like they're just freaking out, But they're realizing how different it is and what they need to understand. Yeah. Then we help them go through like commentaries, which is a bit deep, which is sometimes too, but that a youth pastor can come in and help with that. But seeing them come to the conclusions that we came to in college is like, the word is meant for all ages.
Yep.
It's not something that we just prepackage and shape it and change it for ages. No, the Bible was made for all people, all ages. And so these kids can take this and the Lord is working through them. So I freaking love what you're saying.
I literally am in such agreement because one of my biggest pet peeves is when people underestimate youth. They underestimate their capacity. They are so malleable, which is that can be a really bad thing.
It's one of the
It's
greatest
a
things,
really
one of the
good
worst.
thing.
Yeah.
Like if you can understand that youth they have such a high ceiling, and then help walk alongside them to reach that ceiling. Teach them IBS. Teach them what it means to seek the Lord, right? I think one of the biggest problems that we have is we try to make youth group like a pizza party every single week.
Yeah.
Kids are, like you said, willing to die for something. They just don't know what it is yet.
They can get pizza at their house.
Yeah, or at school, right?
Yeah.
Like they can get pizza anywhere, but they can't get the word everywhere.
Yeah, no, that's...
And so often you don't know how to read the word. And so many bars of wisdom. But if you had one more to give, right? If you had one more piece of advice, one more something that you're just like, yeah, I wish I would have known this when I was in high school. Like, what would that be?
I wish I would have known just how much God is always refining you. There's always something new to learn. And so like everything I've learned in my life, coming to college, at Go Lake, in ministry, it just is all summed up, and God is always showing you something new. Every year I can say, God has been teaching me this month. Oh, God's been teaching me this year. There's always something that God has in the process. One thing's coming to a close while something's in the middle, and one thing's at the beginning. He's a holistic God, and he's always trying to refine you to look more like him. And it's the most beautiful journey you could be on. And sometimes it's going to hurt, and sometimes it's going to suck. But at the end, a diamond comes out of it, and we'll be more like Christ in the end.
Dang, that's so good. I love the whole refining thing. I love that. That spoke to me just because that's what I've been like thinking about, was like, dang, we're always being refined, know? And I remember the analogy talking about silversmith, and it's like refinement leads to this purified silver or gold, so he can see a reflection of himself. And so like in us, and he's just like, keep going. But it has to keep going because it's a process that will never stop until we're glorified with Christ.
Yep.
That's a word. So
and if you think you made it, if you think you're refined,
you better polish it up a little bit more.
You better realize that you got some pride in your life, and then he's gonna refine that too.
Literally, when we talk about being perfect, as God is perfect, talking about a progression that like is always going to keep happening. It's not like you get to a point where you stop.
You don't just reach a point and you're like, check, not gonna ever mess up again. It's like, let's check that back again.
Yeah.
Dang. Well, thank you so much, Mickey.
Yeah,
that was awesome. It was so fun having you on the podcast, and it was such late notice.
Yeah, and it's finals week.
Yeah.
So it's
incredible.
It's a stressful time, and you're going home. I guess you'd be home when this podcast drops.
Oh, yeah,
so,
probably.
Dude, shout out Mickey. She's up in Oregon. Future Mickey.
It was fun having you on the podcast.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you so much for making time. I really, really appreciate it. And listeners, stay tuned. We got more. And we'll see what happens.
Adios.
We'd also like to take a second to thank the School of Theology and Ministry at Indiana Wesleyan University for using their facilities. We want to thank the Call Collective for producing all of our podcasts. The Call Collective seeks to equip the next generation of ministry leaders. To find out more information, visit at thecalledcollective.org or check us out on Instagram at The Called Collective. Thanks for listening again and taking time in your day to have the chance to be formed by the conversations we have over coffee. See you guys next week.